Okay, and we're live. It's Luke and
What is
Brett. Hey, Luke,
happening?
how
Hey, hey,
is it
hey.
going?
Doing amazing, my friend. Doing amazing.
Okay, so we talked last week, and we were talking about, as we normally do, we brought up a subject, and that was the how we decided what subject we're going to do today. So we decided. Let me go ahead and go back over to my screen. We decided that we're going to do a subject on how to find, hire, and train a foreign virtual assistant. And we decided on this, if I remember correctly, is because we started talking about the people that help us on our team. And I think
Hmm.
that's we'll talk more about that, but we don't want to refer to them as foreign virtual assistants. I mean, it is what it is. But if you're going to hire someone, you might want to treat them more like a person than just a thing.
Yeah.
But, um, and then we came up with these three objectives. Number one, why should someone hire a virtual assistant? Number two, where to find qualified candidate. I think that's a big one. Actually, these are all three really important. But number three is how to screen, interview, and more importantly, retain uh, the talent. So those are the three. That's the subject and the learning objective. So I guess we could start very at the top. Why hire a foreign virtual assistant?
So for me, obviously, at the root of it, it really comes down to just margins, cost, and we can attract extremely high talented folks at a fraction of the price. And especially with everything that's kind of happened recently with the pandemic and people working from remote, um there and not needing, and getting in used to not working in the same location, it really made it challenging to like justify paying four times as much for somebody, if they're not in the same location. So at the end of the day, being able to accomplish what you want to do at a fraction of the price, and so that's a huge driver, obviously.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think one of the largest, and not think, I know, one of the largest line items a business takes, right, whether you're a large team, a small
Mhm.
team, a big company, is the cost of labor. And I'm in California. Now it's probably not as bad in Texas. You used to live in California, so you can completely relate. But just because wages are required to be higher doesn't mean that you can pass 100% of those costs on to your customer. So
Yeah.
as much as I want to make sure that I'm paying a wage that is directly related to somebody's skill and the value they bring to the time,
Hmm.
I also have to understand that I got to bring more clients. I got to bring in revenue
Yeah.
to pay for that. And if I can't pay for it, then what do? I think there's a federal, not a federal, but a California thing that the minimum wage over time it's going up to like $22 an hour. My first job was at McDonald's. I was making like now granted I was 13, but I was making like three something an hour, and I was still the richest kid in junior high. But those jobs, those entry level jobs, those jobs where you go, I learned a lot of life skills from that
Totally.
first job that helped me go to my next job, which by the way was Nordstrom Cafe. It was a it was a
Moving
promotion,
up.
and then to my next one, and next one, next one. But we don't have that anymore. So I think to your
Yeah.
point, um, it's about revenue. It's about profitability. It's about affording it because otherwise you can't stay in business.
Yeah. 100%.
Another thing too is what you said about the quality of candidate you get. A lot of these, and we're going to talk about where you find them here in a minute. But a lot, a lot of people that I talk to when I share with them that I work with people in other countries, and I share with them the wage that we're paying them, and they're like, "Oh, you're just." They don't say this, but I think the misunderstanding is that a dollar here equals the same dollar there. They don't
Right.
account for the change in value in currency. So what we're paying here in dollars because of the strength of the dollar, who's to say what that's going to look like in a year or two? But right
Yeah.
now, what we're paying in $1 or $5 is quite a bit different than what somebody can get for $1 or $5 in their own country. So their quality of living is much higher. We're paying less, but over to there, they're having a higher quality of living. And so I look at it as a win-win situation.
Oh, 100%. I had and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like where you get that like kind of pushback or like that like you're paying them $3 an hour and like it's almost like they personally take offense to that
Yeah.
you're paying somebody $3 an hour when that is life changing for them.
Yeah.
Like that is the equivalent, depending on upon where they're at, that's the equivalent of like $70,000, $80,000 a year job for
Yeah.
somebody here, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
upper middle income.
amazing. They can support like, I have team members who support entire families off of their income, and which is not even close to a livable wage here in the U.S., but it's monumental for them.
Monumental.
And dude, I kid you not, some of my team members live a better lifestyle off of what
the quality of living is higher.
Their quality of living is better than most people. I'm like, hey, wait, you went on vacation where now? Like, how long was that? But
I might be paying you too much.
So no, I always try to push the limits, but yeah, I mean, a lot of this, like, why really for me, like personally in my, what I wanted to, when I started to create some more products and services for our clients, like one of the things that I really was focusing on was just having these like massive outsized values. And the only way that I could provide a price, like, provide this level of value for this price point, like, so there's this huge discrepancy, is to have more affordable talent. And sometimes it required training them up and building them up. And there's, there's some subtle nuances there, but like you're mentioning, like you cannot pass, California labor costs off 100% to your clients.
No.
You as a business owner are going to have to eat that. You're going to have to find that somewhere else, or do some other stuff, or take from somewhere else to accomplish that. And to further expand on your like example of like McDonald's, I just saw in California they're passing like a labor thing for fast food restaurants where they're shooting for $22 an hour for fast food people.
Yeah, I saw an article that they're doing. They're allowing them to unionize as well,
right?
Which I don't have any qualm about there. I think the problem that I see there is that that's just going to make a Big Mac cost like $20 or $10, or it's just going to cause those of us who own businesses and actually sign the front of the check instead of the back of the check understand that you cannot just raise the cost of labor and not affect prices.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are going to have to lay off people and consolidate and make more responsibility onto that single person. And we don't need to make this political, but what we've chosen to do is to do what these major corporations are doing. They're outsourcing their stuff.
Yeah.
Rarely do you call a major customer service phone center and get 100% in the States. You're getting the Philippines, you're getting Singapore, you're getting, you name it, you're Vietnam. So you're getting a lot of different people, Mexico, you're getting a lot of different people outsourcing it. So we're just following that same thing. The other thing that I get sometimes is that you're avoiding paying taxes. And the way that I see that, paying payroll taxes and such, the way that I see that is I would rather get to choose, we're very charitable. I would rather get to pick and choose on spending how I want to spend those overages, as opposed to allowing the government to continue to spend the money on programs that I don't see any type of direct result from.
Right.
So that's it. Yeah. So there's a lot of benefits. I think going to kind of sum that up, the benefits of hiring a foreign virtual assistant. Typically, you're getting somebody who's at least has an undergraduate degree. You're getting some people have graduate degrees. You're getting very quality people, and they're dedicated. I think that the worker here, and we see it a lot in the national media, is about this whole quiet quitting, about people not wanting to,
Right.
they're doing the bare minimum. These people are typically on the other side of the planet. They're working what we call a graveyard shift. They're happy to do it, and they're dedicated, they're motivated, and they're there like Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you're actually getting not only are you saving valuable resources, but you're also gaining a higher quality of candidate into a team member. I don't see a lose-lose on that.
Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. There's a level of appreciation that it's really hard to get, somebody stateside or physical.
Yeah.
And not to, the don't get me wrong. I mean, I had entire client success team US based, really, really solid, team members. But at the same time, like you have that, like, hey, I'm going to do the bare minimum type of a thing.
Yeah.
Where that's just, if you want and expect a certain level of service for your clients, and that can get frustrating, and when you have a comparison of like, hey, I want to hire and have us made, us this, like I want to employ people here and this, but nobody can come with the energy or like serve your clients when you're like, hey, these people can serve my clients and provide the level of care that I want. Makes that really challenging to like continue to push that. It's like, hey, I want to do this, but and I always try to look to myself as from like a leadership standpoint, like what can I do in order to help improve that first and foremost.
Sure.
And so,
and I think in the modern world too, it's COVID was a terrible thing that we all went through. However, there are some things that came out of that. One of which is, you hear me talk about this all the time, is the QR code. That was dead technology as I saw it before COVID came out. Now everybody knows how to use it. But the other thing is the remote worker. There was a lot of industries, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of teams that they did not feel that they could do, or that their people could work remote. And now that whole model has been proven false. Now, the only people that can't work remote are people who actually have a physical activity that has to be done. I'm in California. I'm in the real estate industry. If somebody has to go and look at a property, drop something off on a property, look, you can't do that remote.
Yeah.
But 90% of everything on the back end is going to be remote. And that's what you want to use,
Yeah, in that, to touch on that topic or that portion of it, I think this really, and I kind of saw like almost like the writing on the wall where people were getting paid to stay home and not work, and I was like, man, there's gonna come a time where businesses, are going to realize that, like, hey, you're working remote. I now have a talent pool of everywhere.
Yeah, now it's broad and it works both ways.
Yeah, and so if you're not, and it was like, and that's just a macro like labor need, right? And you're like, okay, that's fine if everybody wants to choose to work remotely, but at some point in time, we need people. Like, we got to hire. We're bringing on some more people, so yeah, I kind of saw that, and I was like, man, people don't start taking these jobs because, especially when labor was like in such high demand, you saw these prices that people were willing to pay for certain things.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, these people need to get on this. Like,
Yeah.
you need to get on this before this ship sails,
Sailed.
because
And it
these
sailed.
businesses are not going to be offering. I mean, I remember driving around town. I'm like, man, some of these wages these companies are offering right now are insane.
I saw a
Like,
sign when I had to get new tires on the car, and we walked to the store, me and my son, and we walked through a strip mall and past a restaurant that's offering a signing bonus.
right?
So they were offering like I think it was like 18 bucks an hour plus an $800 signing bonus
Yeah.
for whatever position they were looking to hire. So, but I think that I think to your point, I think the ship has sailed on that. When we're starting to, at least here in the United
Yeah.
States, and we're starting to see unemployment numbers tick up. We're starting to
Sure.
see more layoffs than we are everything else. But there's the benefits. So the second one that we wanted to talk about, back over to here, is where do we find qualified candidates? That's the big one, right?
Mhm.
We want to find qualified candidates. We don't want to just pick anyone. And you seem to find people at a lot of different places than I do. The
Mhm.
majority of my team and the majority of the people that I've worked with are out of the Philippines,
Mhm.
and I found them. You can find them on the popular sites like Upwork. I still use Upwork. I'm not a major fan of using Upwork. They charge 20% onto the worker as part of the wage, and so what I
Right.
end up doing is actually paying 20% more. But I use onlinejobs.ph. As you know,
Mhm.
that is a job site for Filipino contractors. And
Yeah.
but you have a larger team, a more diverse team, more worldly team. Where do you typically get your people?
So, typically, right now, I look really three main buckets of talent pools. So Philippines, obviously, I mean that has been a big one. Traditionally, or been more common, I would say, and especially some of the things that you mentioned. With just their English speaking. Um, then for a lot of like tech related stuff, Pakistan and India is like, that region is really good for like technical stuff. So there's that little talent pool. And then what I've really, really, really started to shift a lot of stuff over to is Mexico, Central, and South America, and this is primarily for people who are being more um, involved in the day to day customer, like mostly sales type stuff. Anything in the Western Hemisphere, and for primarily, it's like it's so much easier to work during the day and have like a regular work period for most people. Sometimes that night shift is not necessarily super conducive for working with people. So Mexico, Central America, South America, the Bahamas, those are all like really, really, a whole. I kind of group all of them together as far as like another talent pool.
So where do you find
So,
them? Like like
yeah. So
onlinejobs.ph is easy because
yeah.
it's catered around
Um,
that. But how do you find all these other ones?
So for um the when I really started to ramp things up, I just did ads. I ran ads online
Like Facebook
through
ads?
Facebook ads.
Hmm,
So I would
that's a
laser
good idea.
target, I was like, hey, Mexico, run an ad. We're getting applicants, full, 20 answer, questionnaire applicants for $1. Um, so like tons of opportunity, talent there. So running ads, Other really good sources for other places, and this is goes for like the Philippines and India too. There's Facebook groups that are just completely dedicated to virtual or remote, work. And there's Philippines ones, there's Latin America ones that they're all primarily Spanish speaking type stuff. But Facebook groups are really good. I'm actually right now in the process of using more regular traditional like job board type stuff
Oh,
as well, which is
like Indeed and Monster and
yeah.
okay,
Exactly.
LinkedIn.
So that's been the progress, like the you know using specifically targeting stuff or specific. I feel like the job board type stuff is more conducive to where rather than you have people coming to you versus you going to them, right? So there's almost kind of like a different mindset of like where people are coming from.
Now,
When
are
people
you able to
see,
segment on those job boards? Are you able to segment the certain countries that you're looking to hire in? You can post like you can post your job posting and then you can just
yeah,
decide what country you want to be able to view those.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
So that's there's
I mean, it makes
like
sense.
in hiring now, I would still try to there's like the best practices, right? Of like I still try to adhere to like US type stuff like discrimination. So I'm not gonna like, hey, you can't you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
be this and that type of a thing. But geographically it's like, hey, this is where I want to post this job.
That's perfect. So, look, onlinejobs.ph. For those watching, you can hit there for the Philippine market. Luke said you could post some Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram ads, have a post there. You can throw a few dollars into that and have them go to a landing page, which is like an application. And then three, your traditional boards that I didn't even think of. I always thought about those being stateside.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, Monster, and Indeed. Those are kind of the top three that come to my head, and just focus on
So
certain parts of the country.
there's
But
a
don't.
software I'll share with you right now. It's called Breezy, and this is not like a paid promotion or anything, but Breezy. I think maybe it's Breezy HR or something. But they'll aggregate job posts to like you can say how where they'll hit all the free ones. You create a job,
Oh,
and then it'll post to all the free ones. Then you can choose any of the paid ones that you want to run stuff to.
and how do you spell
But
that? Breezy, like a
yeah,
wind, like
I
wind.
believe Breezy.
HR, Breezy
Yeah,
HR. Is
breezy
that the one that
dot HR.
advertises for like an HR staff member or contractor for like 99 bucks a month? I hear that. Is that who they are?
It is so it's more of a like a software type of a thing. So you almost think of it like it's almost like like you have like CRM ish vibes to it where it not only posts job postings for you, but it will help manage the process as well. So you can incorporate like questions into there, you can calendars, like pipeline stages where you're moving people through the pipeline. You have all your notes, you can communicate with them through there. It's pretty affordable too. I want to say it's like 150 bucks a month. There's a free one, like $150 a month, and then you can ramp it up, as high as like 400 bucks a month, depending upon like your needs. But
Okay.
it's pretty robust as far as recruiting or job posting and recruiting is concerned. Pretty user friendly as well. So that's a little unpaid sponsorship,
No, I
unpaid.
like that. Okay, let's go to the final subject, which I think so. We talked to people why What's the benefits of it?
Mhm.
We talked to them, gave a tremendous amount of places where we could find them. And then let's go over to this screen. The last one, I'm going to change my color here, is how to screen, interview, hire, and I think we agree the most important, retain,
Yeah.
top talent. So I'll share with you kind of my process on how I did this because I'm very systematic. When I was hiring my appointment setters, when I was managing an office, and I would hire them to, and really two things: hire them to call homeowners to schedule
Mhm.
appointments if they're interesting to sell, have them following up with buyer leads, calling them, seeing if they'd be interested in a buyer orientation, setting
Yeah.
appointments. But then when I was running an office, calling real estate agents to set up growth meetings. And what I found very, very quickly is when you post on a job board, like in a Facebook group, you're
Hmm.
just going to get hammered with direct messages and everything, and they deep dive on you. They find your
Yeah.
email address and they just hammer you. So
Yeah.
what I ended up doing is I created a Google form, like your
Hmm.
10-step questions. I had a similar thing. Don't just send me your resume. Here's the
Yeah.
process of applying. And part of that was it was very important for me to hear their accent. So I had the opening of my standard script for whatever source I'm going for, and they were as part of the application, they had to record them going through that script.
Nice.
And I did not consider anyone that didn't go through the entire process. And I would still get several dozen applications who went through that process.
Hmm.
I think I think onlinejobs.ph. I think the price may have changed, but at the time it was like $50 a month, cancel anytime. So I'd only have it turned on for like a month, and
Yeah.
then I would do all my advertising and marketing. I'd get all these candidates, but they would have to go through that. They'd be in a form. I would listen to them. I would
Hmm.
send them a response saying, "Hey, I'm interested in speaking with you." I would send them like a Calendly link. Here, pick a time that works best for you. I'd like to meet with you in person because I want to meet with them on video face to face. I want to
Yeah.
see how they're going to show up for a job. Some
Right.
of them I can remember some of them like rolled out of bed and just got on all sleepy eyed. And
Yeah.
that was like a 2 minute conversation. I'm like, look, sorry, this was a job interview. You're not prepared. That's not what I'm
Right.
looking for. Thank you. You can go back to bed now.
Totally.
But that's how I found my right hand guy, Jan. He's out of the Philippines. Um, he works the night shift. But here's the other thing about retain. So I'd hire him, but retain. That I spent a lot of years in the Marine Corps, and
Hmm.
I think that the the leadership opinion of people from the outside see it as a very authoritarian regime, and it is in the beginning, but that's more of just causing stress into the environment. But the way
Hmm.
you retain people is by treating them as people, treating
Yeah.
them as if they are local, taking into consideration that they have families and their such. And more importantly, so yesterday, he and I communicate through Messenger on Facebook Messenger. And I put a message. I'm like, hey, can you jump on a Zoom? And I open the Zoom window. And then, like a lot of times, I forgot about it. I took a phone call and everything. The Zoom window's still up. And then all of a sudden, about an hour later, he pings me. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see this. And it comes to find out he took a nap. And I'm like, look, man, I totally get it. Look, you're on the other side of the planet. You're you're working graveyards. It's not that important for you to. You don't have to be at my beck and call. I said, now if we were live, if it was an event, if it was a webinar, I'm like, that's a whole different story.
Right.
I don't nitpick on the hourly wage. I typically so for him, I have a base rate of $20 or 20 hours a week at X amount of a price. And whether he uses those 20 hours or not, I just do that 20 hours. He just has
Okay.
to be somewhat readily available when we have certain tasks that have to be done. And if there's a time where he exceeds that 20 hours, then he just has to let me know. And we can talk about it. Because I'm not here to, I don't want to look and I'm not a micromanager.
Right.
here's the objective. I need you to be available, somewhat during these hours. But if you want to work on them in your daytime, on your weekend and such, we just need to
Right.
get the project done. So that's
Totally.
how. And he's been with me for nearly 3 years now.
That's cool. I like that minimum hour kind of base, and then if you go above and beyond, because it there is, and I think this kind of dovetails off your retain, like them needing to know that there's some sort of like stability or something that they can count on, is important for that. And I personally, I ran into a challenge which I can kind of get into it in a little bit more detail on, um, paying for commission and commission only sales reps in a remote environment, and there seemed to be some sort of you know communication there, that I can get into. But so I took, as far as like how some of my process is, they're very similar. I think when I first started out, a very, very similar process to yours, as far as like recruiting from internally in like a Facebook group. And that's how I started. Very similar process to using a Google form. I think I made the same mistake that you might have made the first time of posting and not having a filter,
Yeah.
like a filtering out process. And so, and this is something for anybody that's here that is just getting started and just wants to go out and start the process of finding their own people. A couple tips, because this is a very path of least resistance type thing into a Facebook group. I would put very specific instructions on the Facebook post itself, to see immediately if they could follow directions. So a great example of this would be like, number one, comment below. So if it's a Facebook group, comment below. So we want to activate those, the algorithms internally in Facebook, so it gets out there, it sees more people, you get more candidates. You're creating that funnel. But then, say, direct message me, because you can't, like, there's only so many people that you can direct message. You don't want to, direct message me, or don't direct message me type deal, right? One of the two, like, depending upon what you want, to see if they can follow directions. Don't direct message me is another one, because, hey, you're instantly out, like, if you can't follow that. And then a lot of times when I would do like, hey, direct message me or comment below, like, comment your favorite color, right? Like, only comment your favorite color. Comment below your favorite color only, right?
I actually, now that you brought that up, I did the same thing. In the job posting, I would have at the very beginning, please read through this entirety to learn about the job and how to apply. And then towards the end, it says, here are the instructions. And I blatantly have there that if you don't follow the instructions, you won't be considered. Because for those of you that are watching, what you'll find is that there's a lot of agencies out there who are just finding these new ones, and they're just blasting out applications after applications. They're just numbers. So, and I don't hire agencies, by the way. I don't. I'm hiring individuals. I train them. When I had my sales team, I role played with them every single morning on the source of who they're going to be going on. So there's a lot of time and effort. And there's another thing I think that we should address, is that you have to take responsibility for training them. You're not going to be able to hire them and think that they're going to come out and create a system for you. You have to create the system. You have to train them on the system, because, and this goes regardless of where they're located. You have to have the activity. If you don't know what you're hiring for and you don't know what their activities are, you need to do that first. You need to create that system first, and then bring them in and then train them on the system. that's how it goes on autopilot.
Yeah. So, yeah, great point. And like, just, the being able to follow directions from the get go is a great filtering process. I think I've, evolved from that now, so I guess there's different paths for every, wherever we're going. Some of the ads, for example, what I'll do is I'll actually run almost like a live webinar, weekly. I'll have 50, 100 people on like a live webinar. So the ads to live webinar after they've gone through qualification process. Then from there, what I'm doing is I'm putting them into a practical application. So I'm using like a training platform where they have to go in, they have to watch videos, they have to execute a few tasks. One of them being like what you mentioned before is recording themselves so we can hear them, see, say if they have that. Then submitting that, and then going into like a final interview. So it's like a big group discussion, group presentation, then practical application where they have to do some stuff, and then a final interview, small group. So that's my process there. But to speak on your point of like having stuff created ahead of time, everything that I have is all SOP'd, and there's video recordings, it's all mapped out. I mean, so depending upon most everybody that you're going to get with, they need to have that structured step by step.
Yep. And for those of you watching that don't know what an SOP is, that's standard operating procedures.
Mm-hmm. So a couple tools that you can use to make something, and this is like super simple. You can record a screen with Loom, which is free, and Google Docs is free. So if you're making an SOP for somebody, if you have a task for these people that you're hiring and you're doing it, and let's say, for example, it's just cold calling, right? You have cold calling a list, you record yourself doing that task and talk through it. I'm clicking here, I'm pressing this button after this call, I disposition here. So that's how you create that SOP for them. And then you have this asset that you can use to train other people and improve and optimize upon. So, you're
scripting out the process. So it's not just script on what you say. It's like, hey, this is really what you're doing is you're doing a screen write, right? You're doing a whole process of, hey, step 1, this is what's happening, this is how you do it. Step 2, this is what's happening, this is how you do it. Step 3, this, similar to what we just did. We just walked you through a whole funnel, a whole how-to on why the benefits of hiring a virtual assistant, how you can go and find them, and how you can hire them. And then now once you hire them, you need to make sure that you have a process in place on how they do the things that you want them to do. Because one of the big mistakes is someone says, I need an assistant, and they think they're going to hire an assistant, and then the assistant's going to come in and just know exactly how to operate everything. And then you're going to get frustrated because they're not doing it. They're not putting the weight and this, that, and the other. You're going to fire them. And then now you're back to square one.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work.
Extreme ownership, right? I mean, that's my approach to it. That's my approach to these team members. If they fail, it's because of something that I did or did not do, and that I need to correct that, whatever that may be.
Yep. Now, if they don't show up for work, that's on them. But if they show up for work on time and they don't know what to do, and you're not getting the results that you want, that's on you.
But to speak to that, maybe I'm not incentivizing them enough. Maybe I'm not providing a good enough culture or environment for them to want to show up.
Yeah.
So I still try to take responsibility for that and say, hey, what is my role? What can I do better to make these people want to show up?
Yeah.
Do I need to pay them more? Do I need to, do I need to create more systems and processes or something around getting people to want to show up with energy? So a couple of the things that I help to do with that, I do a daily stand-up meeting every morning at 9 a.m. with the team. We jump on Zoom. Everybody, talks through their day, what their goals are, what we're looking at accomplishing. And then at the end of the day, we do an end of day report, and we report back into Slack everything that we accomplished for the day. So how many, if it's for, as an example, if it's salespeople, how many phone calls that I make, how many appointments that I book, how many new clients that I enroll, and how would I, where do I need help, type of a thing. But just some quantitative and qualitative feedback to be able to help coach and guide and retain team members.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, look, we're at time. So actually, we're a little bit longer as we do. We went 10 minutes more than what we thought we were going to go. But guys, that's it. So highly recommend. Luke and I both are working with people who are outside the United States as assistants. They're, the guy that I work with has his undergraduate degree in information technology. He knows a lot about tech. He knows a lot about everything. Works out well. I know that Luke has he has a sales team and he has admin and such working on the back end. But if it works for us, it'll work for you if in fact you just want to go and do it. It's not easy, but you know what? It's no harder or easier than hiring. Actually, I would probably say it's easier than hiring someone stateside because you don't have to worry about any type of payroll or anything. So just saying.
Yeah.
So with that, any parting words, Luke?
That's it, man. Let's do it.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Rock and roll.